So that actually wasn't a record run. We lost the rear tire on that run, and the cord actually cut the intake manifold in half and lost pressure, which probably is the reason I'm still here.
G'day, JP Afflick here, and welcome to another episode of My Mate's Faster. Today I'm pretty excited being a motorcycle guy. We have the fastest man in history on a motorcycle. He's held the record for over 16 years. Please welcome Rocky Robinson. Welcome, Rocky Robinson, to an episode of My Mate's Faster, mate. Great to see you, and thank you for taking the time this morning to join us.
Oh, my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. I'd like to start these off, mate, by asking how fast have you been?
Well, my top speed so far is 405 miles an hour. I did that in Bolivia on one of our runs a few years back.
Okay. Can you tell us about that run? Is there something that stands out in that run, something you remember?
So that actually wasn't a record run. We lost the rear tire on that run. I was about 3/4 of a mile from the measured mile, and the rear tire started delaminating and coming apart. And the cord actually cut the intake manifold in half and lost pressure, which probably is the reason I'm still here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, fair enough. Do you remember the first time you saw the salt? I'm guessing it was Bonneville.
Yeah, it was at Bonneville. I was working for Dennis Manning, and he was trying to talk me into driving his machine. We went out there and took a look, and I even tasted it, and I've been going back ever since.
Yeah, sure. And what year was that, Rocky?
So my first year running was in '96.
Okay.
Boy, that's a long time ago.
It is. It's gotten away, hasn't it, on all of us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're with Dennis. You saw the salt, and what do you think? It's a big, wide expanse. I know when I first went to America with my dad in 2010. We drove onto the salt and we stopped, and we couldn't believe how big and beautiful it was. We didn't know which way to go, what to do. It was sort of a bit of an overload of the senses, I guess.
I mean, it's an amazing place. It's the first time I was out there. Like you say, it's like walking on the moon. It's just this big, expansive white. As far as the texture and the terrain and all of that, the first few years I went, the salt was amazing. There's years it's not amazing. So it's got a life of its own, you know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I know there's a lot of campaigns at the moment, etc., to save the salt, but we'll leave that to the politicians and to those guys, and and keep racing. Before the motorcycle streamliner, like you haven't had a conventional salt path, we'd say. You didn't start on a smaller road bike and step your way up, and all of a sudden say, I'm going to build a motorcycle streamliner. Right. What did Rocky Robinson do motorsport-wise before land speed racing?
Both my brother and I raced motorcycles our entire life. We started out racing flat track, and I made it pro expert in flat track racing, the mile and half-mile ovals. And then we got involved in speedway, and I raced that. That's European-style racing with no brakes. And I won the Northern California Championship in '89 in that. And I ran into Dennis Manning. I actually got a job working with him many years ago, and he had built the streamliner that set the record with Cal Rayburn back in the 70s, I guess. And he was looking to build a modern one and needed someone to pilot it.
How did you meet Mike Akatif? I guess is how it all starts, this story.
Yeah, well, it was really interesting. I ran, a few years with Dennis at Bonneville, and one of the times we went there, I see the Akatak, and I believe Jimmy Odom was riding it at the time. And I remember how impressive that machine looked, and watching them go with relatively very little time on the salt. They went very fast, and it was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah. Were you riding with Manning or just crewing?
No, I was driving for Dennis.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. And Dennis, he's been doing it for a long time, and they've had the record a few times. He has a couple of riders. He had a famous drag racer, Boris Murray, who's a bit of a hero of mine.
Yeah. My dad went to school with Boris.
Oh, really? Okay. He was a master fabricator and a drag racer, so a big guy, and set a lot of records. But I believe they went over the record 13 times, and couldn't back it up. So it's it would have been frustrating. I think you'll agree. Especially in the time frame, land speed racing definitely teaches us some patience.
Oh my gosh, it's definitely a waiting game.
Yeah, and you've got to be persistent. So you get the gig with the Akatak, and Mike, and it's probably what are we looking at? 2006, I guess, is when the big first big hurrah happened, I guess, on the salt for you guys.
Yeah, and it was real interesting with Mike. I actually had the audition for the ride. We went to Silver Springs, Nevada, to an airport runway, and he let me try the bike out there. And normally he has these big outriggers he has on for any time anyone's new on the bike in case something goes wrong. They forgot to bring them, and they weren't even going to let me run it. And one of the guys on my crew was there, Buzzy, and he told him, just give me a shot. And the very first time I rode, I got the entire crew there, and I'm nervous, and everyone's watching. And Mike tried to make it difficult for me to see what I had. And so the landing gear he had up a little ways, so the bike was leaning quite a ways to the side. And I put it in gear and rev it up and take off and stall the motor right in front of everybody, which was embarrassing. So we fired it up again, and that time I revved the crap out of it and lit the tire, and off we went. And they were happy with what they saw, and I've been at the controls ever since.
Yeah, sure. I actually know the other side of that story, Rocky. I've talked to Mike about that audition. I think he said you pulled up at the end and you sat on the tire and didn't even fall over, and he said, "That's our guy."
Yeah, that was kind of cool because I knew they were chasing behind me in the vehicle, and so I was just doing what I could to make it look good. And yeah, I got it pretty much to a stop without even having the skids down.
We get to 2006 at Bonneville. I wish I was there. I arrived too late on the scene. From all reports, the Salt's Magic, 2006. You're there. The Akatak's there. On the Akatak, the Bub's there, and Sam Wheeler's there. It's sort of a golden time for motorcycle streamliners, I guess. It can be aligned with the car guys in the 60s and 70s when it was Arfons and Breedlove and Thompson, shooting out. How'd that week progress? How was that week for you in your head and your memory?
That was like the Super Bowl of land speed racing for motorcycles, that particular meet. All three of us were there. The record had stood for 16 years with Dave Campos, who's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. And we broke the record the very first day. And, it stood for 16 years, so we were anticipating having it for a while. Chris Carr, 2 days later, breaks our record, and again, it stood for 16 years. And then Sam Wheeler goes down, makes a pass, and went 355 miles an hour. And the record at that time was 322. Just smoked all of us. And he gets near the end of the run, and he actually lost his front tire, lost air, and he put it on its side. He didn't get hurt. It wasn't a bad spill, but it was enough that he couldn't make the return run. Or I believe at that meet, he would have left with the record. But three of us in one meet went over the record speed. And what was also really fun for me is we're down at the staging area, and there's the Bub team on one side parked, and they're all staring at us, and we're the ACTAC team on the other over at them, and Sam somewhere in the background. It was just really exciting time.
Yeah, it was a real shootout, wasn't it? It was definitely the Super Bowl. You get the record there. Tell us, mate, about driving the Streamliner. Like, I hear, stories. I've seen you ride it. I've seen some moves. I hear, you haven't got the advantage of your legs hanging down. You're not on the speedway bike now. So, how do you get it to turn? And what's the sort of, the idiosyncrasies of the Streamliner?
There's two ways you have to steer it. When the skids or landing gear are down, you steer it like a car. To go left, you turn left. To go right, you go right, because the bike can't lean. As soon as I get up to speed, they push me up to 50 miles an hour. I raise the landing gear. Then it's all counter steering. So basically, to make the bike go left, you actually steer to the right, and it makes the bike lean to the left, and you chase it. And Dennis Manning taught me, he explained it the best I could ever understand on how to steer a Streamliner. It's like if you take a broomstick and put it in the palm of your hand, and you want the broomstick to go to the left, you move your hand to the right, it starts to fall to the left, and you follow it. That's essentially counter steering, and that's what you got to do in a Streamliner. The Akatak, the other thing about it has so much horsepower is wheel spin can be an issue. I mean, we get wheel spin up to 250 miles an hour. We're still trying to get her hooked up, and then you finally have enough momentum and downforce, that it really gets going. But it can be a handful.
Yeah, sure. So you're just feeding the horsepower on as you go all the way. You're at some point you're at full throttle in the Akatak.
Oh yeah. Well, in first gear, the boost on our bike is set up where I don't have any boost in the low gears because it just doesn't need it, and it ramps up as we're going. And no, by the time I get to third gear, I am having enough speed that I'm as close to wide open or pushing it as hard as I can from then on. There's other variables that there's course conditions, there's wind, all these things where people think you just sit in it and twist the throttle and you can go real fast. It's not quite as easy as that.
On the perfect day, but when there is no crosswind and conditions are perfect. I assume you've had a couple of them over the years. Is it
Sure.
is it is it a lounge chair once you're going, mate? Once you're 350 plus, does it feel pretty good?
When I set the actual record, my return run was 394 miles an hour, and we had damaged the transmission, so we only had 4 gears instead of 6. So it was like trying to take off in third gear. I had to get pushed with a push vehicle, and it just really lugged taking off. But once it got going, that was in Bonneville. That was the fastest run I ever made. But once it got going, it was no drama, so to speak. It was the easiest run where nothing went wrong. And when machines that complicated, usually something goes wrong. And the bike ran clean. The conditions were great, and we were running in the early afternoon when usually it's windy at Bonneville. It was dead calm. Everything just went our way. And even though it was the fastest run I ever made, it was probably one of the easier ones because everything just happened. The stars aligned and the salt gods were smiling that day.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling, isn't it, when that happens, mate? Your heroes in motorsport. I've got the list up here. Vesco, and you say your friend Dave Campos. Who'd you look up to?
So coming up, I don't know if you're familiar with Ricky Graham. He was a pro flat tracker, won the championship a few times. Him and my brother were best friends. So we all grew up together, playing together. And it was amazing seeing his talent and all that. So that was exciting. And then I got into Speedway, and my brother was doing the same path. And so he was very talented at that. As far as land speed racing, the guy that impressed me and who I wanted to get involved because of was Dave Campos. Dave Campos held the record for 16 years, and his story is incredible. I mean, running dated Harley Davidson, Keith Ruxin engines, it was quite a story what they did. Again, in 2006, like we were talking about, where the three of us were battling it out, what happened was technology caught up. The horsepower, the traction, the aerodynamics, and everything was so dialed in that, that's what makes Dave Campos's runs even more impressive because they had a lot less to work with. And so, yeah, he, as far as land speed racing goes, Vesco is always, he's one of the gods in the sport and all that. But Dave Campos is the one that really got me excited about it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. A couple of old fuel-burning Harleys banging and clanging. There would have been a bit of grease behind that bike, or a bit of oil hanging out of that one, I think. 2010, you run 376. You get the record back off Chris. And the team decides we're going to go to Bolivia. And for those people who don't know, Bolivia is at 12,000 feet, so you get a bit of an aerodynamic advantage over Bonneville, 10%, Mike would say. And with the Attack being turbocharged, you don't lose any horsepower. You can wind the boost up. So in theory, your 376 is 40 something, and off you go. So the first trip to Bolivia, do you have fond memories of the first one? It looked like, from an outsider's looking in, it was like the president was there, and it was a bit of a big shindig.
Oh man, the welcoming party they had was amazing. The president, like you said, was there with his military. They also had people there in traditional garb doing dancing and all of this stuff, their native land. And it was such a good feeling to be a part of all that. That was incredible. The salt there, Bonneville has its good years when the salt's incredible at Bonneville. This place is 4,000 square miles of salt. Bonneville's 400 square miles. The interesting thing in Bolivia, you can find perfect salt. There's lots of room there, and they don't have just a dedicated course like at Bonneville. And so when we run, the conditions are just amazing. Logistics is a nightmare. Getting the stuff there and getting it there on time is another story, but the course itself is just amazing.
The first time there, you guys, I think there was some container issue. They're a bit late. You didn't get the job done. You've been back a couple of times, mate. What makes Rocky Robinson, what makes the team keep going back? The persistence and the patience to chase the 400 mile an hour barrier.
Ever since we got the record, when we got the record at Bonneville, my exit speed was 394 through the lights. And our data acquisition shows I don't chop the throttle. You got to roll out of it gingerly. I hit 401 point something on that run, but it didn't count. We knew the bike was capable. The salt for us at Bonneville was deteriorating, where we wanted somewhere safer to run at those speeds. And when you go to Bolivia, we realized that 400 was within reach. And to me and Mike, it's ours to lose. We're the only ones on two wheels that have been over 400. And we've done it twice, but never where it counts. 2 times in a measured mile. And this is going to be my last year. I just turned 65, and I figured, that's been a good run, but we sure would like to leave with that 400 mark. And like I said, I feel like we're capable of doing it. We've had lots of gremlins when we were there, but we've been there enough now. We know what to expect, and I'm really hoping we get that opportunity late this summer.
Mate, I was there in 2023 with you. I remember standing there when you guys were getting ready one day on the track, and it was one of those perfect days. I think the flags were both limp and facing different directions on each side of the track. There was no breeze, and I thought, geez, if you can't get it done here, this is the place. It's I think probably Bonneville and a bit Lake Gad and the guys, they might write Bolivia off, but geez, when you see it, it's just magical salt, isn't it? And the fact you drive for half an hour, 45 minutes to get to the track on the salt is just, shows the expanse it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique place. We, one of the mornings driving out to the salt, we encountered a bird that looked like an ostrich. It was every bit of 6 feet tall. There's this wild thing running around out there, so you never know what you're going to see at that place.
Yeah, probably better there than later on, I guess, on the track. So it brings us to this year, I guess. Bolivia is on, I believe, October 22 to 27. How's the preparation going for that? You're ready to go? You've been mountain biking. You're looking fit. 65, you're in good nick.
Yeah, I do a lot of mountain biking. I still ride motorcycles, and I was at the gym this morning, just trying to stay prepared for it. As far as Bolivia, they're going to run later this year because we've always ran July, August, I believe, and it's the end of their winter, and at night, it's so cold that all the liquids in our cargo container with all our equipment, the water freezes up. So Mike decided to run a little bit later in the year so it won't be quite as cold. It's going to be interesting. We believe Guy Martin is a good chance of running there, and he's going to be running a turbine-powered streamliner. So it'll be pretty exciting to run with him again. And we're really looking forward to getting our shot out there.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, and he's done a fair bit of stuff over the years, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun with him in the Triumph at Bonneville.
One thing I've got to say, Rocky, is this is a personal sort of gig, is you're such a humble, cruisy North Cal guy. If people didn't know, they wouldn't know, you haven't got a big shirt saying, I'm the fastest in the world, and this big ego that you might expect to go with the gig, I guess. And if I look at, Danny Thompson and George Petit and those guys who have been successful in streamliners and fast speeds, do you think your temperament really helps with the job at hand?
I believe so. There's a little bit of, you can confuse ego and confidence. You got to have a little, you got to believe you can do it. And I definitely believe that. But, just like those guys, we show it on the salt, see what you can do. And, I've been doing this a long time. I can't believe how long it's been. I started in 96. I thought I'd do it for a few years and be done, but I'll tell you what, as far as wardrobe, you mentioned shirts or whatever. The one piece of the wardrobe that I really would like to have is a black hat. And no one's done that on a motorcycle. The black hat is the 400 mile an hour club. And Danny Thompson, he's one of the heroes of mine. He's a legend. And I see him with that, and I always joke with him, I want to get that hat someday. And, I'm sure hoping that I can leave with that.
He's a cruisy dude. I'm actually interviewing him later today.
Oh, he's the greatest.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. Mate, look, thanks for your time. I know you're a bit pressed, and it's a busy work week over there. I look forward to seeing you in Bolivia this year. Is Rose going?
Yes, she is. She'll be there.
I'll catch up for a gas bag over brekkie.
Yeah, I like it.
And look, more than anything, and for you and Mike, I really wish you get the job done. I wish you all the best, and I'll be one of the first guys there to shake your hand and congratulate you. And just on, like you say, it's been a 30-year gig now, and I think you deserve it. And there's one team that's going to do it. I think it's going to be you guys this year. So, well, it's been 16 years as well. Campos to you was 16, and
yes.
now to you guys to now is 16. So that might be a good omen.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on here and bringing the sport out in the public. It's great for guys like you to do such a thing.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thanks, Rocky, and take care. Safe travels, and I hope to catch up with you in October later this year at 12,000 feet.
You got it. Thank you.
Take care, mate. Cheers.
Bye.